The last blue marker I found wasn't in the woods. It was under the rental shelf at the store, low to the ground, half hidden behind returned tents, angled toward the employee exit. I remember crouching there with the broom in my hand, staring at it, because that door was the one I used every night after closing. The front block jammed if you turned it too fast, so I always left through the back. At 8:15, no customer knew that. So when I saw that tiny blue square pointing right at it, I finally understood what those markers were for. They weren't guiding people through the woods. They were showing someone where to look. Welcome to the last broadcast, where some stories were never meant to be heard. I worked at Harbor Outfitters for almost 7 months. It was a small camping shop that tried to look more serious than it was. Most of our money came from rentals, tents, packs, bear canisters, camp stoves, sleeping pads that came back smelling like wet dog. I wasn't a real outdoors guy. I knew enough to talk to customers. Dave, my manager, called me catalog camper because most of what I knew came from reading tags. Leah worked weekends. Quiet, practical, and annoying in the way competent people are annoying. She always had extra socks, a pocket knife, athletic tape, and an actual paper map in a plastic sleeve. The whole thing started with a customer returning a tent early. Green 2-person rental, older model. One of the ones we should have retired, but Dave kept because it still technically worked. The man brought it in on a Friday afternoon. He didn't ask for a refund. He set the bag on the counter, pushed it toward Dave, and said, "You should stop sending people out with that one." Dave asked if it leaked. The man shook his head. Then he looked at me. Not Dave, me. "It has blue marks," he said. Before either of us could ask what that meant, he left. In the back room, we opened the bag. I expected mud, a ripped seam, missing stakes. The tent was clean, too clean. The rainfly was folded tighter than we usually got it. The stakes had been wiped down. Even the guy lines were wrapped neatly. Only one stake was strange. The hook had bright blue paint on it. Dave laughed and said, "Congratulations, catalog camper. You've been promoted to ghost tent inspector." I said, "I'm not sleeping in it." He said, "You are if you want those repair hours." He was half joking. I was half desperate. So I went. Leah came because she didn't trust me to test gear alone. We drove to Morrow Pines the next afternoon. It wasn't a campground with bathrooms and numbered gravel pads. It was public forest with primitive sites spread along an old logging loop. The campsite plate was missing. There used to be a metal strip listing sites 1 through 8. Now it was gone, just 2 rusted screws sticking out of the board. Leah touched one and said, "That wasn't missing last time." I asked if the place had been creepy back then. "No," she said, "it was boring." I liked that answer. We picked Site 4 because it was close to water and not too far in. The trail was damp from rain earlier in the week. About half a mile in, my headlamp caught something blue, even though it was still afternoon. A thumbtack, blue reflective plastic pushed into the bark of a pine. Leah said people sometimes used those for night routes. Then she leaned around the tree and stopped talking. The tack wasn't facing the trail, it was facing away from it. There were more after that, some high, some low, some 10 feet into the woods. I made a joke about budget trail maintenance. Leah didn't even smile. Site 4 was a shallow clearing with a stone fire ring, a log bench, and a flat rectangle in the needles where a tent had clearly been before. 4 stones marked the corners. It looked useful. That was what got me. It looked like someone had already done us a favor. Leah stood with one tent pole in her hand and said, "You sure we want this exact spot?" I said. It's already flat. She looked at me for a second, not scared. More like she was watching me choose the lazy answer. She didn't argue. We sat up there. For a while, it was fine. We filtered water, collected damp branches, made instant noodles that tasted mostly like salt. Leah drank coffee from a dented metal cup and kept tapping her spoon against the rim. Click, click, click. Then the same sound answered from the trees. 3 clicks. Same rhythm. Leah's hand stopped. I remember the fire being too loud after that. Soft little pops from the wet sticks covering up smaller sounds. I whispered, "Maybe another camper?" Leah called out, "Hey, we're at Site 4. Nothing. Then we heard a zipper. Not ours, somewhere behind the trees. Slow, one tooth at a time. Leah stood. "Hello?" The zipper stopped. A man's voice said, "Sorry." That was all. Not loud, not aggressive, almost polite. Like he had practiced saying just enough. Leah wanted to leave. I looked at the dark trail, the wet tent, and our gear scattered around, and thought about Dave laughing when we came back after one weird sound. I told her morning would be safer. I wasn't completely wrong. I just wasn't right enough. We put out the fire and got in the tent before 9. Leah clipped her keys to the zipper pull so it would jingle if anyone opened it. I remember feeling better because of that. Like keys on a zipper could solve whatever was outside. At 2:13, I woke up to a bell, a tiny metal bell, something small like the kind tied to a dog collar. It rang once above us, then again to my left. Leah was awake. I knew by her breathing. Then came footsteps, slow steps around the tent, not lost, not wandering, counting. The person stopped on my side. The tent wall darkened where their body blocked the gray light outside. Something pressed into the nylon near my shoulder. One finger. It dragged down a few inches, stopped, dragged again, like the person was finding the shape of me through the wall. Leah whispered, "Don't move." So I didn't. The keys never made a sound. That bothered me more than anything. Whoever was outside wasn't trying to get in. They already knew what they needed. In the morning, our bear bag was down. We had hung it between 2 trees before bed. Leah made me redo the knot twice. Now it sat on the log bench. Opened, sorted. Oatmeal in one pile, coffee packets in another, granola bars stacked neatly. Our lighter placed on top of Leah's metal cup. Beside the stove, pushed upright into the dirt, was the blue-painted steak, the one I had left in the pouch. Leah didn't yell. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just said, "Pack." We shoved the tent into the bag, wet and crooked. I left my camp pillow. Leah left her coffee. Before we left, I pulled one blue thumbtack from a tree. I wanted proof. Something to put on Dave's counter so he couldn't call it nerves or raccoons. The second it came loose, a bell rang deeper in the woods. Then another. Then another. Not in one place. Different places. A line of them moving through the trees. The trail back looked wrong. Not impossible, not movie wrong. Just changed in small, mean ways. Fresh blue arrows made of reflective tape had been stuck to trunks overnight. Branches were tied low with blue string. At one fork, an arrow pointed left, even though Leah said we had come from the right. She checked her compass, then checked it again. I asked what was wrong. "We're walking north." "The car is south." "Yeah." A few minutes later, we found a green sign nailed to a cedar. Ranger access. 1.2 miles. For a second, I felt relief. A sign meant a road. A road meant people. People meant this could become a stupid story instead of something else. Leah didn't move. "The nails are new," she said. I followed it anyway. I don't know if I was scared or stubborn by then. Probably both. The path narrowed fast. The blue markers disappeared, which should have made me feel better. It didn't. It felt like they weren't needed anymore. The shed was in a clearing. Gray wood, metal roof, no windows, a padlock hanging open. At first, I thought it really was maintenance. There was rope inside, tarps, a broken plastic bin. Then my eyes adjusted. The shelves weren't stocked. They were arranged. A cracked mug, a torn stuff sack, one hiking boot, a red child's flashlight, 3 folded ponchos, a disposable camera with the back snapped open and the film missing, not supplies. Things people had left behind, or things taken from them. On the wall was a strip of black foam filled with blue thumbtacks. Beside it hung little bells tied to fishing line. Leah backed out first. I stayed because I saw a tag on a nail, a rental tag. Then another. Several, some from shops I didn't know, 2 from Harbor Outfitters. Old yellowed tape, Dave's handwriting, same barcode style we still used. One tag had a date written on the back, 9 years ago. That number stayed in my head before I knew why. The man from Friday hadn't meant the tent had blue marks. He meant the tent had been used as one. Leah said my name from outside, and I finally moved. We didn't follow the ranger sign back. Leah said water runs downhill and roads usually cut near water. I didn't know if that was always true, but I was done being the one who decided. We found a creek and followed it. We slipped, crawled under branches. At one point, Leah grabbed my sleeve so hard the cuff stretched because she thought she saw someone crouched behind a fallen tree. It was only a stump, I think. A utility worker found us on a gravel maintenance road close to mid-morning. He was angry at first, thought we were trespassing. Then Leah said, "We came from Site 4. His face changed. "By the lake?" he asked. I said, "No, old fire ring, log bench." He looked back at the trees. "That loop's closed." I told him about the ranger access sign. He said the state removed those signs in the 90s. Then he asked quietly, "Did you see site number?" Leah said no. He nodded once, like that was the answer he expected and didn't want. He drove us to my car. At the shop, Dave didn't believe us until Leah dropped the blue tack and the bell on the counter. He stared at them, didn't touch them. The tent was still wet, so I hung it over the drying rack in the back room. That's when the pine cone fell out. It came from the sealed rainfly pocket. Small, dry, dark. The number 9 was carved into the side with clean little cuts. Dave asked what it meant. None of us answered. Leah looked up at the tent hanging above us and said, "Take it down." On the inside roof, right above where I had slept, were 2 faint crescent marks in the fabric. Knee marks. Someone had knelt on the tent while it was collapsed around them. Maybe before the first customer returned it. Maybe while it sat in our back room. Maybe after closing, when the shop was dark and the rental shelves blocked the security camera. Dave cut the center pole open with a box cutter. Inside, wrapped tight so it wouldn't rattle, were 9 strips of blue reflective tape, already cut into arrows. Dave closed early that day. Leah quit the next week. I stayed almost a month. I needed the money, and people can talk themselves into anything when rent is due. The last marker showed up on a Tuesday. I was sweeping pine needles from under the rental shelves when I saw it. A tiny blue reflective square stuck to the underside of the bottom rack. Low, hidden, placed where no customer would notice. You'd only see it if you were crouched behind the counter, looking straight at the employee exit. The door I used every night at 8:15 because the front lock always jammed. No customer knew that. Only employees did. I left the broom on the floor, and for a long time, I just watched that little blue square catch the light every time the back door moved.